My daughter-in-law sneered, "Old woman, mo sleep in the doghouse." The words hit harder than winter wind, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I took my keys, walked out in silence, and began the quietest revenge Decatur's ever seen. And that was just the beginning. I don't shake because I'm old. I shake because I remember. The porch light buzzed above me, fighting the Alabama humidity that hung like wet cotton. Crickets sang their usual hymn, and the wooden doghouse at the edge of the yard sat under the moonlight like a quiet witness. The glass of iced tea on the counter inside was sweating harder than I was. The baseball game hummed low from the living room, a white noise that didn't belong to me anymore. Inside, I could hear Sable moving furniture again, her version of redecorating. My son, Desmond, scrolled on his phone, pretending he didn't notice she'd pushed my favorite chair aside. A little paper napkin was folded perfectly on the table for two guests she called friends. Oh, there wasn't one for me. My husband's photo sat high on the shelf near the deed folder, half covered by a plant she bought from Target. I stood there for a long time, looking at the picture, remembering when he promised, "This house will be your peace." Then came Sable's voice, sharp and cold. "Old woman, if you can't follow our rules, you can sleep in the doghouse." The kitchen went still. Even the refrigerator hum seemed to freeze. Desmond kept staring at his shoes, mumbling, "Let's not start, babe." But he didn't defend me. He never did. I felt something shift inside, like a slow heartbeat turning to stone. My hands didn't tremble. They steadied around the table's edge. "I paid for that roof, baby," I said. Sable smirked. "You paid? We live." She pointed toward the window, where that dim shape of the doghouse sat in the yard. The laugh track from her show overlapped with her voice. For a second, I thought the world had turned cruel for sport. I didn't argue. I just straightened a fork and said, "I'll take my tea to the porch." The night air met me like an old friend. I sat on the swing, letting it creak with my thoughts. I could still hear my husband's laugh echoing from the past. "Velma," he'd said once, "never let this place forget your name." Now, that promise felt fragile. My quilt was gone, folded into a closet. My church bulletin thrown in the trash. A slow erasure, one item at a time. I touched the small pill case in my robe pocket. The Tuesday slot was empty. "I ain't begging for a seat at my own table," I whispered. Through the window, I saw Desmond and Sable moving about like actors on a stage. I studied the layout, the back door, the hall closet, the safe key in the drawer. If kindness had left this house, I wouldn't stay as its hostage. I walked down the hallway later, soft slippers on old floorboards. The hum of the fridge returned, and a siren wailed somewhere down 6th Avenue. In the closet, I found the spare keys, the house, the shed, the safe. I remembered the colors I'd painted on each ring, like a quiet code between me and the life I built. I didn't pack. I prepared. I slid my purse to the chair by the door, tucked my comfortable shoes beneath it. My breath slowed. "Walk quiet, sign loud," I told myself. Paper would be my weapon. I stepped onto the porch again, keys hidden in my palm. The doghouse didn't look like punishment anymore. It looked like a test I'd already passed. "I'm not the help," I murmured. "I'm the homeowner." Inside, the air conditioner clicked on. The lights flickered once, as if the house knew what I was about to do. Sable's voice drifted faintly. "We need order in this house. Peace requires respect." I answered the night. The porch light buzzed again, softer now. I reached up, flipped the switch, and let the yard fall dark. My hand closed tight around the keys in my pocket. Tomorrow would come. And when it did, Something in this house would belong to me again, and it wouldn't be their permission. When the air went still, I opened the drawer and found the envelope with my handwriting, my name, not theirs. Inside were papers that smelled like old ink and truth. My social security card, our marriage certificate copy, the trust letter, property receipts, and the will my husband and I signed the year before he passed. My thumb came away gray with graphite. If it ain't in writing, it ain't real, he always said. I stood in the silence, thinking of him, thinking of how words on paper sometimes carried more strength than blood. The floor creaked when I stepped back. I moved like a woman memorizing her own home, though it no longer felt like mine. Purse under the coat rack. Shoes turned outward. Charger in my pocket, every detail in its place. The calendar on the wall had Sable's big handwriting, redecorate, scrawled across Saturday. I underlined my own initials next to property tax due with a quiet hand. Step 1, money, I whispered. Step 2, evidence. Step 3, leave clean. The sun had barely risen when I reached Decatur Community Credit Union. The clerk smiled. That practiced kindness banks keep for older customers. Morning, Miss Rutherford. Morning, baby, I said, sliding my ID across. I'd like to review my accounts. She typed, then paused. Her eyes flickered, unsure. There was an attempted change yesterday, she said softly. By who? Mobile login. Secondary user. A different device. My pulse stayed steady, but I felt the chill. Print it, I told her. All of it. I changed my access, reissued the card, and set limits. The clerk asked if I wanted to remove the secondary name. Not yet, I said. Sometimes you let the snake stay close till you find where it hides. I smiled kindly and added, Honey, if paper can keep a promise, I'll take 2 copies. When I came home, the house looked the same, but felt watched. I slipped the folder behind my old church cookbook, the one full of grease spots and casserole notes, 1978 potluck favorites. No one would touch that. I made copies of the IDs, tucked the originals into my robe pocket, and brewed coffee instead of eating. Protect quiet, move loud on paper, I told myself. Then I opened the Ring app on my phone. It was still logged into my email. I scrolled through clips, me bringing in groceries, Desmond mowing, Sable's figure pacing near the window. One clip caught my eye. Last night, her pointing toward the yard while I sat on the porch swing. I downloaded it, along with others, saving them to a tiny USB drive I kept in a teacup canister. If the house wants to watch me, I murmured, then the house can testify. In the kitchen, Sable was leaning against the counter. We need order in this house, she said. Order without respect is control. I answered, pouring my coffee slow. Desmond turned, uneasy. Let's keep the peace. Peace needs truth. Son. I rinsed my cup and left it on the rack, because even routine can be resistance. As I walked down the hallway, I remembered my husband teaching me to sign everything in pencil before ink. So they can't fake your thunder, he said. I smiled faintly, touching the small honor pin still tucked in my coat. I slipped the USB beside it, evidence and memory, my 2 kinds of armor. Desmond stepped out of the bedroom. Mama, he said, voice low. If a man lets his wife call his mama old woman, he better be ready for the day she calls him old man when his luck runs out, I said softly. He rubbed his temple, didn't answer. I could see the fear he wouldn't admit, layoffs coming at his job. Respect, I told him, is like insurance. You pay a little every day so you don't lose everything at once. House. Later, I wrote down account numbers on a small slip of paper, tucked it into my purse, and aligned my shoes by the door again. One more click in the app, sharing the camera to an email only I knew. I unplugged the lamp so it wouldn't buzz when I left. By sundown, I whispered, this house will speak for me. I left the credit union with my folder tucked tight under my arm, the paper edges pressing little truths into my skin. The morning breeze smelled faintly of rain and coffee grounds from the diner down the street. Proof had weight. It wasn't comfort, but it was something solid. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Dr. Owen Marr. Last time we'd spoken was after the funeral, when grief still sat at my kitchen table. This time, I needed clarity. Owen, I said when he answered, I need tea and paper, not sympathy. His voice came warm and steady. Bluebird in 30. I smiled at that. Always to the point, to the Bluebird Roastery sat in an old brick building downtown, with chalk menus and the smell of roasted beans swirling through the air. The crowd was small, teachers grading papers, city workers scrolling phones. Owen stood when he saw me. No hugs, no pity, just respect. We took a corner table near the window, where the light came soft through lace curtains. We speak plain, I told him, and we assume this conversation's got ears somewhere. He nodded. Then let's write more than we say. I slid the bank logs and trust letter across the table. He read without pause, pen tapping once every few lines. Sunup to sundown, I said. That's my window to win. He gave a small grin. Then we'd better pour fast. He unfolded the papers and circled sections with deliberate care. Your late husband wrote this right, he said. Rutherford Family Trust keeps the property vested under your name. Any transfer needs your notarized consent. He underlined one line. Surviving spouse. That's you. No amendment holds without your ink. He explained how we'd file notice at the county clerk before sunset, locking the title. He called it making the title sticky. I called it making it mine again. If they try to move money, he continued, we'll verify the beneficial owner with the bank, align it to the trust. No app tricks, no digital signatures, and if they bring you papers to sign, we have a sheet on file confirming what your signature looks like. I breathed slow, steady. You don't have to shout, Velma, he said softly. The ink can shout for you. Then let's get the pen talking, I replied. We drew up a checklist: county filing, bank update, letter to Sheriff Jolene Barlow, noting the trust documents existed. Owen arranged a notary for tomorrow. No home visits. Too easy for an ambush there. I gave him limited power to file property records in case I had to leave fast. Record, verify, notarize, exit, I said, typing it into my phone. He looked at me, almost proud. You've always had more sense than most clients twice your age. I laughed quietly. Experience is just the name we give to scars that healed. By noon, I was back home. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and someone else's idea of order. I placed an empty folder in the desk drawer, Sable's favorite snooping spot, and tucked the real one behind the cookbook shelf. A sticky note under the keyboard read, Bills due 15th. A harmless decoy. I adjusted the Ring camera to capture the kitchen doorway. Measure twice, sign once, I murmured. My husband used to say that every time he fixed something around here. Desmond appeared in the hallway, hands in pockets. Mom, he began, Sable just wants things organized. Organization without consent is control, I answered. No signing in this house without my lawyer present? His eyes dropped to the floor, torn between loyalty and fear. I'll think about it, he muttered. You do that, I said. Think hard. In my room, I packed a small bag, IDs, trust copy, medication, a change of clothes, my church fan, and the photo of my husband in his Sunday suit. The USB drive and his honor pin went side by side in my pocket. I touched them both, drew a deep breath, and steadied my heart. From the kitchen, I heard Sable's voice. "Des, I printed those renovation permits for her to sign after lunch." The printer beeped once. I placed my hand flat on the old desk. "If they insist on paper," I whispered, "I'll insist on mine." The county clerk's office smelled of dust, toner, and that faint tang of dry air that clings to paper older than the people holding it. Owen stood beside me, manila folder under his arm, steady as courthouse marble. The clerk, young enough to call everyone ma'am, took the forms with a polite nod. "Please timestamp every page." "Sweetie," I told her, "I'm old enough to know time matters." She smiled and pressed her stamp hard enough to echo. I slid my ID across, parcel number written in neat ink. Owen handed over the trust excerpts, the language that tied the land to my name, not theirs. We asked for certified copies, one for me, one sealed for Sheriff Jolene Barlow. When I signed the recording log, the pen moved smooth and sure. My husband once said, "Ink has thunder if the hand believes in the truth behind it." I tucked the receipt into my cardigan, a shield I didn't have to raise my voice to use. Outside, the light hit like honesty, bright, unforgiving, and necessary. Owen unfolded a sheet he'd printed on the spot. "Signature verification," it read, with today's date and the clerk's initials. "If Sable shows you anything, this page says what's real," he said. "No home signings," I repeated. He adjusted his glasses, lowering his tone. "If she presses, use the phrase." I nodded. "Blue teapot." He set his ringer for my number only, in case. We parted at the curb, he toward the fax machine, me toward the bus stop, my steps quiet as a ledger closing. When I reached the house, the scent of lemon cleaner wrapped around me like a warning. The kitchen gleamed too bright, too ready. 3 pens lined the table like soldiers, papers stacked under a floral folder. Sable smiled from behind her coffee mug. Desmond sat stiff, scrolling his phone, his knee bouncing in rhythm with guilt. I placed my purse beside my chair, not on the table. Space first, voice second. "Let's look at what needs doing," I said evenly. "Then we'll see what needs signing." My eyes caught the small blue light of the Ring camera, my quiet witness, recording everything. Sable slid the papers forward. "Just permits and a small title update," she said, sugar in her tone but vinegar underneath. I flipped to the last page first. A clause mentioned quitclaim and survivor's waiver. My heartbeat didn't change, but my mind sharpened. "Who drafted this?" I asked. "A friend of ours. Fast service." "Fast," I said softly, "ain't the same as lawful." I pulled out the verification sheet Owen had made, setting it next to hers. Clerk initials, fresh as truth. I laid the county receipt on top. Her eyes flicked. "Calculating?" "No home signings," I said. "We'll do this at Owen's, or not at all." Sable's smile thinned. "I'm trying to make this a home. Velma." "A home doesn't need a waiver," I replied. Desmond tried to play mediator, his voice soft but hollow. "Let's cooperate, Mom. Cooperation without consent is surrender," I said. The air went still. Sable pushed a pen toward me. I rotated it away, untouched. "Are you accusing me of something?" she asked. "I'm reading." I answered. The clock ticked loud, each second saying no for me. I snapped a photo of the top page, emailed it to myself and to Owen with subject line, "Blue teapot." I lined the stack so the camera caught the header. If she lunged, it'd be caught clean. "Son," I told Desmond gently. If it's standard, it can wait a day. I rinsed my mug, left it drying, proof of calm. Sable hissed. So you're refusing? I'm requiring, I said. My keys jingled faintly in my pocket, metal crowning the moment. Upstairs, I lifted my packed bag, IDs, trust copy, medicine, one photo, one USB, porch light off, ring zones reset. A note on my dresser read, "No home signings. See Owen. Not farewell, just instruction." The doghouse sat outside, dark and empty. It would stay that way. Downstairs. Sable's voice cut the quiet. She's stalling. We need this done tonight. I stood in the hallway shadow. Bag ready. If they plan a trap at the table, I whispered, I'll set my exit at the door. The credit union's glass doors slid open, and that sharp smell of sanitizer mixed with the hum of air conditioning hit me like a small-town welcome. I walked straight to the counter, folder under my arm, heart steady. "It's Velma Rutherford," I said. "I need the beneficial owner verified today." The young teller blinked once and disappeared into the back. A moment later, the branch manager appeared, navy suit, friendly face, the kind that sells trust with a handshake. He ushered me into his office where a bowl of peppermint sat between framed photos of Little League teams and ribbon-cutting ceremonies. I placed my folder down, each page aligned with purpose. "We're going to do this by the book, Sugar," I said. The book, with my name in it. I wasn't here to argue or explain, just to fix what was mine. I slid the trust excerpts across the desk, every clause highlighted, every signature verified. No conveyance without the surviving spouse's notarized consent. I pointed. He read it twice, lips moving like he wanted to be sure. I passed him my ID, marriage certificate, property tax receipts. My phone lay face up on speaker. Dr. Owen Mayer's voice calm and certain. "Yes, sir. Mrs. Rutherford is the sole surviving spouse and trustee of record. The filing is active as of this morning." The manager nodded, typing into the system. "Let's align the account ownership with the trust directives." I smiled just enough to show civility, not relief. "That's all I'm asking," I said. "Systems should match the truth." His screen flickered, and I caught the change in his eyes. "There was an attempt to add a new mobile device and request profile control yesterday," he said. I folded my hands. "Remove it. Reset owner verification. No online access without me in this chair." He nodded quickly. Together, we set transaction alerts for every withdrawal above $50, reissued paper statements to my P.O. box, and added a permanent note, "All property-related transfers require attorney contact, Dr. Owen Maher." He printed the changelog, initialed each page, and stapled the cover sheet. "If it ain't stamped," I said softly, "it didn't happen." Then came the reversal itself, the kind that leaves no room for argument. He adjusted system control, reassigning full authority to me as the primary owner under the trust. On speaker, Owen requested a fraud watch flag tied to any property or escrow action from the house IP. The system pinged once, then printed a new owner auth token, sealed in my name. I signed the acknowledgement, slow and deliberate, watching the ink settle like it knew what it was doing. "All future title or loan documents," the manager said, "must be notarized off-site at council." I reached for a peppermint, sliding the bowl toward him. "Sweeten the day," I said. Today, the ink spoke for me. Outside, the heat had softened, but the air still shimmered off the sidewalk. I stood at the bus stop, phone pressed to my ear. Owen's voice was brisk. "Sheriff Barlow has the fax notice on file. You're clear." "Good," I said. I like things clear. I texted myself the control numbers, photographed the sealed envelope, and tucked it deep in my purse beside my house keys. At the stoplight, I jotted on a scrap of paper, no home signings, all papers to Owen. By the time I walked back through the side door, the house had rearranged its silence. Sable sat at the table, a closed folder in front of her. Desmond's jaw was tight, eyes on his phone, but not seeing. I placed my zip pouch on the counter and said, "Bank matched reality. We're squared away." Sable's voice thinned. "You went behind our backs." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, I went behind the paper, where the truth lives." Desmond mumbled something about dinner, but the only thing cooking in that room was consequence. My phone buzzed. A new email from the bank. Change log attached. Owner verified. I whispered, "Walk quiet, sign loud," and slipped the pouch into my cardigan. Sable hissed, "We'll see what our lawyer says." I didn't flinch. "Bring him to Owen's office." The porch light flickered once, then hummed. I smiled to myself. The house could glow all it wanted. From now on, it answered to me. The morning light came thin through the blinds, soft but sure. I brewed my coffee black and set it beside yesterday's papers. Notice of interest, signature verification sheet, each square in its own order. My phone rested face down on the counter, vibrate only, with one phrase written on a sticky note beside it. "Bring the blue teapot." That was our code. I checked the Ring app again, repositioning the camera so it caught both the kitchen table and the printer tray in one clean frame. My manila folder was still safe behind the church cookbook, the decoy on the desk, untouched. Quiet mornings like that used to feel peaceful. Now, they just felt like the pause before a storm. I whispered my rule again. No home signings. I read first, not last. By 9, Sable appeared with a stack of papers in one hand and a too-sweet smile on her face. "Just a little estate and renovation note," she said, sliding them across the table. Desmond leaned on the fridge, eyes tired, avoiding mine. I didn't reach for the papers. "Who drafted this?" I asked. "A friend of a friend," she said lightly. I lifted only the top corner. "Last will and testament." The footer read, "Not a permit, not even close." My throat didn't tighten, but something in me hardened. "Why does a permit need a will?" I asked. Sable laughed, sharp. "It's just standard cleanup. Velma." I lifted the pen with a napkin and set it back down. "Then cleanup can wait for counsel." I opened my folder and placed the signature verification sheet beside her stack. My handwriting, clerk's initials, date clear as daylight. The forged lines jumped out, language waving spousal rights, naming successor household managers. The punctuation was wrong, spacing uneven, sloppy work from a greedy hand. I took photos, headers, footers, and that bold title, then sent them to myself and to Owen under our code subject, Blue Teapot. "If this is a will," I said, "it belongs at council, not at my kitchen table." The ring light glowed steady, my silent witness. I stepped to the hall, phone in hand. "Owen," I said, "bring the blue teapot." He didn't ask questions. "I'm on my way, don't sign a syllable." He texted me a line to write. I declined to sign outside of council. I copied it onto an index card in my own hand, slow and neat. "Record it if they push," he said. "Jolene's got your filings already." My pulse stayed even. I walked back in carrying my own pen, the one that knew my name. I set the card on the table, read it aloud. "I declined to sign outside of council." My voice was low but clear enough for the ring to catch. Sable's face twitched. "You don't trust family?" she asked. "I trust honesty," I said, "and witnesses." Desmond's eyes darted between us, guilt flickering like bad wiring. I held the forged page up to the light. No notary block, no date, no shame. "If this is standard, bring it to Owen's office," I said. She snatched it back, and that single motion told the truth better than any confession. Minutes later, my phone buzzed, a text from Carmelita Ruiz, a porch cam photo showing Sable last night, waving papers near the doghouse. "You okay, Velma?" she wrote. I typed back, "Handled via counsel." Within an hour, the neighborhood chat stirred with whispers about trouble at the Rutherfords. I didn't add a word. Let paper talk. Owen messaged again. Sheriff intake logged. No contact required unless escalation. I rinsed my coffee cup. The ring of porcelain sounded like punctuation. By noon, Owen had confirmed tomorrow's notary meeting. 9, sharp. "If they push tonight," he warned, "leave. Meet me at Bluebird." I set a silent alarm for sunset. My bag was already packed. IDs, trust copy, meds, photo, USB. The notice of interest receipt went into my cardigan pocket, my quiet badge, from the kitchen. Sable's voice lowered into the phone. "She won't sign," she said. "We'll try again after dinner." I set my bag by the door, keys in hand. The ring light blinked once, small and knowing. "Ink speaks louder than anger," I whispered, "and distance louder than ink." By sundown, I'd be gone, 2 bus stops away, where my name still opened doors. The morning was still, but the silence had texture. Screens buzzing, neighbors whispering through curtains, and the faint chime of a notification carried down the block. I walked slow toward New Hope Baptist, hat pinned just right, my cardigan buttoned all the way up. Carmelita Ruiz called out from her porch, "Mornin', Miss Velma. God's got good eyesight." I smiled back. So do his people. At the corner store, the young cashier slipped me the Sunday paper without charge. "Put it on my kindness tab," he said. On the front page, my name wasn't printed, but the story, "Property Fraud Under Investigation," told enough. I wasn't chasing sympathy. I was keeping my promise. Let the ink and the truth speak. I straightened my shoulders and whispered, "The Lord didn't bring you this far to drop you in the parking lot." Inside church, sunlight fell through colored glass like forgiveness made visible. The choir hummed softly, tuning hearts before voices. Reverend Hollis caught my eye from the pulpit, one nod sealing our unspoken pact. I chose the middle pew, visible but not grand. When Sable walked in, Desmond trailing behind, the air thickened. Her heels clicked louder than the choir's hum, all confidence and nerves stitched together. I didn't turn my head, just noticed her perfume, new, expensive, desperate. Folks shifted, curious but polite. Decatur's finest gossipers knew how to bow before God while sniffing for scandal. Reverend began the announcements, then paused. "Church," he said, holding up an envelope. "Sometimes love needs clarity." My handwriting on that envelope looked steady, like my hand knew what my heart couldn't say. He read my words to the congregation. "Respect isn't noise, it's maintenance. You pay it daily, or the roof leaks. No names, no blame, just truth." He went on. "A home without honesty isn't shelter, it's storage." The church murmured, "Amen." I kept my eyes on the cross, not Sable's painted face. Desmond's fingers drummed the pew, the rhythm of guilt. When testimony time came, Carmelita stood. "A house tells on folks," she said. "Cameras don't lie, and neither do patterns." Then she sat. A short silence followed, heavy, necessary. An usher read scripture, "Honor thy father and mother." His voice cracked halfway through. I didn't turn. Shame shouldn't have an audience. Reverend closed that moment with calm authority. No judgment, only accountability. The words landed like soft thunder. After service, the foyer filled with murmurs that pretended to be small talk. Then Sheriff Jolene Barlow entered, hat in hand, posture clean as procedure. She approached Sable with quiet authority. "Ma'am, we have a notice to deliver. Formal inquiry regarding attempted title manipulation." Sable tried a smile. "This is a misunderstanding." Jolene's reply was patient steel. "That's what paperwork is for, understanding." Desmond stepped in, voice low. "We can explain." Jolene shook her head. "Sir, the best thing you can do is let your attorney handle it." The crowd turned away, but nobody left. Decatur knew how to pretend it wasn't looking. I stood near Carmelita, hands folded over my purse. "You all right, Miss Velma?" she whispered. "I'm fine," I said. "Paperwork takes patience." Outside, in the bright sun, Desmond crossed the lot toward me. He looked older than yesterday, smaller, too. "Mama," he said. First time in months. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I met his eyes. "Son, I'm not your enemy. I'm your example." He confessed about layoffs. Fear. The pressure Sable put on him to secure the future. I told him, "Fear's no reason to steal from love. I'll help you read what you bring, but I won't sign what insults me." He nodded once, eyes wet but proud. No hug, no dramatics, just honesty under open sky. By evening, word spread clean. Sable's employer put her on leave. Her phone buzzed again and again until she turned it face down. Neighbors didn't mock her. They just stopped waving first. I declined the usher's offer to walk me home. Carmelita called after me. "I'll bring greens later." I nodded. "Just bring peace." My walk back through Old Town felt lighter. The doghouse at the edge of memory stayed behind me, silent and irrelevant. Absence, I thought, is louder than humiliation. At home. I packed the last things that mattered. A church fan, my husband's Sunday pin. The journal marked "Days I Slept in Peace." I left one page on the table for Desmond, Owen's office, the bank. Reverend Hollis, lifelines, not lessons. I touched each doorway once, blessing them with goodbye. "Travel light, baby," I said to my reflection. "Freedom doesn't like heavy." The sun dipped behind the houses. A bus hissed in the distance, waiting for no one. My phone buzzed. Owen's message, "All filings confirmed." "You did fine," I texted back. The paper preached. Behind me, Sable shouted something sharp and broken. I didn't listen. I slipped the key under the mat, not surrender, just punctuation, and walked toward the night that finally belonged to me. The morning rose warm and yeasty from the bakery below, carrying the smell of bread through the cracks in my floor. I opened my eyes to the kind of quiet that doesn't need proving. No footsteps, no doors shutting too hard, no one borrowing peace from my morning. I folded my Afghan, lined my pill case, and brewed a small pot of coffee on the hot plate. The steam curled like a whisper saying, "You made it?" My manila folder sat on the windowsill where the sun kissed each stamp, proof of a battle won by patience. "A quiet room will tell you the truth," I said out loud, the words sounding proud and soft. Today was about finishing clean. No bitterness, just closure written in ink. I called Sheriff Jolene Barlow after breakfast. "Yes, ma'am," she said. "The packet from Dr. Maher arrived. Civil standby scheduled for noon. You'll have a locksmith and an escort." Her voice carried that Alabama steadiness that could keep thunder orderly. I replied, "Tidy makes justice easy to see." Next, I rang the locksmith, gave him the parcel number and clear instructions. "Verify my ID, no home signings, change the codes." Dr. Maher texted, "Papers ready, P.O. box and utilities queued." I smiled at that. My old saying floated back, "Measure twice, change once." I packed my ID, trust copy, and one sheriff card, nothing more. When you've lost a house but kept your name. Travel light. By midday. Decatur's heat shimmered over the driveway where Jolene met me curbside. The locksmith nodded politely before working. No one made small talk. The old deadbolt clicked free, replaced with a new one that sounded like punctuation. I stepped inside the house for the last time. The air was hollow but behaved. I retrieved one folder from the hallway desk and left a decoy behind. Sable would find it and think she'd caught me sloppy. On speakerphone, I confirmed power, gas, and internet transfers to my sole name. The new bills would meet me at my P.O. box, not this house. Before leaving, I placed a fresh note on the fridge. No home signings. It wasn't defiance, it was documentation. Jolene took the envelope marked for Desmond, her gloved hand gentler than I expected. On the bus ride back toward Hartzell, I started an email to my son. Short, true, but heavier than the keyboard could hold. Halfway through, I stopped. I opened my small journal instead. Its first line stared at me. Peace isn't quiet, it's chosen. I copied Dr. Maher's and Reverend Hollis's contacts onto paper, deleted the email draft, and slid the handwritten note into Jolene's envelope. If I want silence to speak, I murmured, I best not shout in a screen. The bus rocked like an old hymn carrying me forward. By afternoon, Owen confirmed the filings, title secured, fraud watch active, bank token validated, utilities aligned. Jolene texted later, Sable attempted to change service, denied. I exhaled once, long enough to empty a season of waiting. A voicemail pinged from Desmond. Mama, I hear you. Just that. I didn't delete it. I didn't respond either. The quiet had earned its place. My reflection in the window looked like someone who'd rebuilt without breaking. When I reached the bakery steps, Reverend Hollis's message waited on my phone. No stones, only standards. I texted back, Amen, Reverend. That's enough. Carmelita had left a bag of collard greens outside my door. Comfort without conversation. I called the credit union one last time. Paper statements only, no phone changes. Routine now. Power, but calm. I left a short message for Desmond. Bring any paper to Owen. Leave apologies for your prayers. Mercy and distance in one sentence. That evening, I set the new key on the table, taping a backup under the chair leg like my husband once did. I wrote in my journal, I didn't win by leaving. I won by choosing where I live. Then brewed tea, letting the scent of mint claim the room. Through the window, the bakery's sign dimmed, and the street fell quiet, earned quiet. I whispered, I keep my own lights on. The phrase warming the space better than any heater. A soft knock came at the hallway door. No voice followed, no insistence, just air shifting. My phone blinked once with an unknown number, then faded to black. I turned a blank page in the journal and left it that way, room for peace to keep writing. I set it on the windowsill where the sunrise would find it tomorrow and whispered to the night. The world kept quiet, exactly the way I ordered it. The next morning, a letter slid under my door. No return name, just one line. You forgot something that was never yours to give. The handwriting was mine, but I never wrote it. I stared at the sealed edge, coffee cooling in my hand. Should I open it or leave the past unopened,